بسم الله الذي لا إله سواه والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا مولانا محمد رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن والاه. اللهم افتح مسامع قلوبنا بذكرك. Ya Allah, please open the hearing channels of our hearts to your dhikr, to that which reminds us of you. Last time we met, we continued in the context of the dhunub and the consequences of dhunub and the reasons for dhunub. And we mentioned some of those reasons and how they affect our hearts and they lead to the diseases of our hearts. And we spoke also briefly of another very important reason, that is al-ghaflatu an dhikrillahi ta'ala, to be oblivious to the dhikr of Allah Azza wa Jal, to be in a state of lack of awareness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then that contributes also to the weakness of our spiritual strength, to our hearts, that is. And then our hearts, we say, fall ill. Of that which we covered last time, and we mentioned also, I recall right, one of the hikam of Sidi ibn Ata'illah, we mentioned that. Are you, hello? Pardon me? Did we mention one of the hikam? كيف يشرق قلب وصور الأحكام منطبعة في مرآته. Did we cover that here? Yes, we did, right? In this class last time. Right? And then we also covered the other hikmah. لا تترك الذكر لعدم حضورك مع الله فيه فعسى, etc. We covered that, right? And you forgot? Anyway, that's up to you. I was now beginning to doubt whether I covered it or not. That's very beautiful. Those are very beautiful principles. And they're so beautiful also, it attracts the mind to memorize them. And they are so fluent and so beautiful. Even in the language that is used is very beautiful, very easy and beautiful. Very, very beautiful, yet very profound meanings. And I think we khatamna bidalik, and finished with that concept as we spoke of the different kinds of hearts and how the heart gets to fall into sickness. And that's how we spoke of dhunub and of ghafla, and therefore of dhikr of Allah Azza wa Jal. And we mentioned those hikam, right? Are we sure? Good, okay. Is there any question about that from what you have seen? Okay. If there isn't, inshallah ta'ala, let me go to another subject. And to me, it's all connected. And hopefully you will see somehow, to me it's all connected. That the istiqra'i analysis of the Quran and of the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and of the sources of Sharia. The istiqra'i analysis. And what is istiqra'? Who knows, anyone? Istiqra', examination, but examination in a very specific way. Istiqra'. It's okay. That's when we do an inductive analysis, an inductive examination, a statistical one. When we look at many cases, and then the scholar, the expert scholar, would look at those many issues and cases and draws and extracts from that a common principle, common idea. That's an analysis by istiqra. Right? So, for example, if you see a person now, which let's take a person, if we do istiqra of that person throughout his life as a person, but here istiqra is not using many instances, many persons, but the same person with throughout his life. And if we observe that, for example, he gave this one, he forgave this one, he gave in charity, he was once very needed and he gave instead of keeping. And we see similar activities in his life. Then when we look at that, we come up with one idea. This is a very simple example. That idea is that this person is generous. An inductive overall statistical analysis of the person's behavior throughout span of life makes us extract a common trait in those many years through examples, different examples, and all those examples converge toward the same meaning, generosity. So when the ulama look at the texts of the Quran in different issues, different ahkam, different laws, and in the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the laws pertaining to the servants, to the human being, to the subjects of the law, when they look at all those ahkam pertaining to human beings and the subjects of the law throughout the Quran and throughout the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and throughout by examination of the other sources of law like ijma' and qiyas and so on, they extract from that an inductive statistical analysis. They extract from that something. I'm going to tell you, you remember it, and then you say, oh, I know that. They extract from that one thing. Who knows? About the ahkam, the laws, the rules and regulations in the Sharia. Yes, please. That's what they are. Approximately, yes. So when they do that, they observe the common thread of all of that is that the ahkam, al-ahkam al-shar'iyya, al-sharia, is intended, seems to be on intent to preserve and promote the well-being of the human being in this world and in the hereafter. تحقيق مصالح العباد في المعاش والمعاد. This, every serious student should memorize this axiom, because it's an axiom that is usually a principle that is derived from statistical analysis, sometimes is stronger than a meaning extracted through a deductive analysis, through burhani or demonstrative analysis, through inductive statistical analysis of all the texts. And they extracted from that, which it's great intellectual work, that this is what the maqsad of the Sharia is. So they extracted from that an overall objective and aim behind the fact that there are laws of Sharia of different kinds. And that is to preserve and promote the well-being of the servants of God, of the creatures, in this world and in the hereafter. تحقيق مصالح العباد في المعاش والمعاد. Number one. Number two, then when they looked also, these many scholars, when they looked at these kinds of the different genres and the different types of well-being that the Sharia is on intent to preserve and promote, when they looked at that through different laws, statistically, they observed that that kind of well-being, most of them, they categorized all of that, they put that, they reduced that into, who remembers how many? Five objectives. 5 objectives. The preservation and promotion of 5 universals. Under each universal come so many thousands of cases. For instance, so what is the first one? Ad-Deen. The preservation and promotion of Deen, of faith. In other words, throughout the Quran and the Sunnah, our main sources of law, these are the primary sources of law, there's Ijma' and Qiyas and so on, that when they looked at the ahkam in the Quran and the Sunnah, they noticed that there are many ahkam overall, though there are specifics, but overall they are on intent to preserve and promote faith and the liberty of faith. The Deen. And therefore there are many laws pertaining to the Deen, and to preserve it and to promote it. Things that are obligatory, things that are prohibited, things that are recommended, things that are reprehensible, etc. All of that, when it comes in these laws, these ahkam pertaining to Deen, the intent is to preserve it and to promote it. And second, they also notice that the second type of universals that the Sharia is on intent to preserve and promote is life and nafs. Nafs, life. With all what that implies of details and nafs. And they also thirdly, through that same inductive statistical analysis, that the Sharia is on intent to preserve and promote. Before that, al-aql. Al-aql. And therefore the freedom of all what is needed of all what is needed to preserve and promote al-aql. That is sane and sound human reason. And that's why many things are haram, because they harm the aql. There are many things that are obligatory because they are necessary to preserve the aql. There are many things that are mustahab because they do help very positively to preserve the aql. There are many things that are makruh because they would affect negatively but not drastically the preservation and promotion of the aql, etc. Similarly for what we said before, for life and for deen. And fourthly, al-ird. Al-ird, which we translated as, what? Pardon me? Lineage, meaning family, honor, dignity. All of that goes into that word of al-ird. Al-ird. To preserve family honor, to preserve lineage, to preserve the family social relationships, health in those, and so on. To do that. And there are different laws that when you look at all of them as a bulk, they have this common thread, al-ird. And then one more, al-mal, ownership, property. And then you find many different laws of transaction, many different laws pertaining to the way you make a contract and the requirements of a sale contract and so on and so forth. All of that is intended to help preserve and promote property, the freedom of having property, and so on. And therefore, with these, there is, when you say, well, where is freedom in all of this? Or happiness in all of this? Well, the answer is, that's exactly the point. Our scholars did not miss that. Since the intent is to preserve and promote these things, then what is needed to preserve and promote them is part of that. Something obligatory as a means to something obligatory becomes obligatory. Something that would lead to destroy life as a means is, because destroying life is prohibited, and the means to do that is prohibited. The freedom needed to preserve and promote faith is part of that auxiliary, part of those means. Freedom is a means to preserving, to having faith. I need to have my freedom to practice my faith and to promote my faith. So that's not an end in itself. Freedom is not an end in itself. As a matter of fact, I argue that freedom does not have value inherent in itself. Do you see? Freedom is a means to something else. And overall, freedom is the absence of restraints against acquiring happiness. Because the ultimate aim is we want to be happy. Well, that's what we want. And I want to be free in order to be happy, not free to be free. But free in order to be happy. And that happiness, we have said before, depends on the kind of what? Of nafs I have. Okay? Depends on the kind of nafs I have. So I seek freedom to attain happiness consistent with, now we say, with my nafs. So what type of nafs I have, I may then pursue happiness consistent with my nafs. If my nafs is predatory, then I want, a predatory happiness, and therefore I want freedom. I want freedom that makes me happy like a predator. But someone who wants to be happy like an angel does not want to have freedom like a predator. See that? And different kinds of freedom. The point is, when they spoke, rahimahullah ta'ala, of these 5 universals, these 5 kulliyat, the concept of freedom and happiness and all of that is all included in there in an implicit way, not in an explicit way, in an implicit way, and you have to see that. Now, first of all, this part to remember. As a Muslim, you should live your life. We should live our lives keeping in mind these things. I should learn and try to live my life consistent with these principles. I should not make choices in my life such that I would harm the preservation and promotion of my deen. In so different ways. For example, so if I ignore to learn properly La ilaha illallah, La ilaha illallah, then that would affect my faith. Not knowing well La ilaha illallah, not understanding well La ilaha illallah will affect negatively my faith. It will hurt my faith. I may end up practicing shirk, for example, if I don't understand well La ilaha illallah. If I deny or ignore practicing salah, Salah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by His grace, He instructed us to be in Salah, as also in addition to what we have said many times before, other things, in order to preserve the deen. Of course, talking about the outcome, the reward, that's something else. But Salah and the preservation of Salah is an essential means to preserve the deen overall. To be truthful, for example. To be truthful. It is haram to lie. It's a law of the intent of which is to preserve what? To preserve what? To preserve al-aql. To preserve the deen. To preserve al-aql. Okay. Pardon me? Al-mal. This could be in more than one. In more than one, could be as a means to preserve it, more than one of those. To be truthful helps preserve the deen. Because if you're a liar, would you help preserve your deen and promote it? So you hurt the deen itself. If you're a liar, would you be contributing to preserving a good social order? No, and therefore you would be hurtful to also the family preservation, the honor, and so on. If one is a liar, then one would, trade and do business in ways that are improper and wrongful and hurtful. That would hurt even preservation, promotion of property. وهكذا. So there is a grander look at the details, and this is the grander look. And if we keep these things in mind, this is my deen about, and sometimes even in general, even if I don't know the specific law in a case, what it says, is it haram, is it wajib, is it mustahab, is it makruh? Sometimes if I know these general principles, that I can make actually the right scholarly decision without knowing the text. If I do not have access to the text and to the law, and then I know these things, they are very helpful in helping me make most probably the right decision. And so when I say preserving of life and preserving of the deen and so on, and that translates in many daily activities at home. At home I'm going to be doing things, and my mind is, many things could be in the way I behave, in the way I behave at home, with the children, with God. I should have always that in mind. I might be doing something, and if I understand these things, this is a violation of the preservation of deen, or of nafs, of life, or of honor, or of dignity, or of property. Somebody is wasting. You don't have to think like a jurist in fiqh. There is wastage at home. Somebody is wasting at home unnecessarily. When you think in this way, you don't know, assume you don't know what some specific texts say about being spendthrift and wasteful. Then you know this principle of preserving, property. Is wasteful consistent with preserving and promoting what you have? No, it's not. So if you waste, you're not preserving and promoting property, the resources of earth, ownership. And other things, of course, you can look at it from other perspective. Is it the right way to represent Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on earth as He made accessible and available to me these resources? Is it consistent with this relationship of stewardship with Allah Azza wa Jal for me to be wasteful? It's not, even if you don't know specific texts. By these general principles, you can make very informed, good decisions in your life. Then our expert ulama, rahimahumullah ta'ala, have also, very interestingly, now these are the 5 general, that's why I call them universals, al-kulliyat al-khams. Then they also have inductively extracted axioms and theorems, if you will, and general principles that are general but not as general as these universals. They're called قواعد فقهية, juristic or fiqhi axioms. And under each axiom come categories of cases. So, number one that is well known and always taught by the ulama, rahmahullah ta'ala, when they say, this is a principle, remember this, al-umuru bimaqasidiha. Al-umuru bimaqasidiha. Al-umur, plural of amr, and amr has many meanings, but here al-umur, in other words, matters, things, which include transactions, which include agreements, which include contracts, which include behavior, tasarruf from me or from another person. بمقاصدها. مقاصد is plural of maqsad, and maqsad means also an aim, objective, an end, sought, and intended. مقاصدها. All matters are with their maqasid. In other words, when things are done, we should not only look at what they are externally, but we should look at, most importantly, at their aims and objectives and their intents. Al-umuru bi-maqasidiha. Al-umuru bi-maqasidiha. And of course, we did notice, remember from what we said before that the Sharia legislates laws. Well, that's what we are dealing with directly, but it has an objective. That's the tasarruf of the Sharia. That's the conduct of the law. But that conduct was the objective behind it. Well, we have spoken of a grand objective behind that. تحقيق مصالح العباد في المعاش والمعاد. Now, regardless at this point of how, rahimahullah ta'ala, the experts, call it the jurists, apply these matters in matters of court issues and so on. But I'm sharing this with us here. It's not about that. That's a different level. It's about how does that reflect in our daily lives. Usually maqasid al-sharia and al-maqasid al-fiqhiyya, qawaid al-fiqhiyya, they usually are not taught about in this way. They're taught about how they are executed and how they are practiced in a court of law, in fatawi. But actually, those who are smart amongst us, we can project that in matters of our regular daily lives. So, if your spouse says something, or a child say something, or your student say something, or your employee say something we don't like, and then you say, you're fired, or to your spouse, I don't like you, or to your child, that's dumb. First of all, if one remembers al-umuru bi-maqasidiha, what should I think about? Yeah, what did you mean? What's your intent? What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? Because she or he or they might tell you, no, I didn't mean that. That's not what I intended. That's not my aim. No, that's not what it is. You see? Now, in this case, if we are wise and composed, you can say, no, that's what you meant. That's not what I meant. then we have to believe them. I meant this way. الأمور بمقاصدها. So we should be looking at the maqasid behind things, not at the apparent external direct things only. But what did you mean by that? Or why did you do that? For example, somebody could have done something that apparently immediately seemed to be improper. But the objective behind which is to actually preserve something more important. To do something that is improper, not so good, it's not criminal, not so good, but it is done because that's the only means, for example, to preserve and promote something more important. That was the maqsad. We say, that's noble. That's noble. For example, somebody sees you, we have in Surah Al-Kahf, the story of Surah Al-Kahf, a lot of that, by the way. But then you're in the street and you're walking, and this elderly man is walking next to you, and then you push him. You push him out. Somebody sees you, comes and beats you, and what's happening? How could you do that to that old man? I was saving his life. I saw a snake coming to bite him, for example. Or a car was coming to hit him, so I pushed him. So it's a negative act, improper act, but what was the maqsad? Much greater than what appears to be. Of course, you don't have to only go to the law and apply these things, but in everyday life. Again, I come back to your spouse and your spouse, and your children and your friends and so on. Certain things may be done, some tasarrufat, that would appear to be negative, and maybe they are always, but before we make a judgment, why? And maybe there is an explanation if we are a person who's composed and listens also. Then we'll realize, there is something else. I'm very sorry. Of course, and the other one you say, I understand. Of course, you had to react that way because the act is apparently negative, but this is what was behind it. Al-umuru bimaqasidha. And you know Surah Al-Kahf and the stories of Sayyidina Al-Khadr with Sayyidina Musa. Right? That's something like that also. Al-umuru bimaqasidha. He goes and makes a break in the boat. That's a vile act. That's a wrong act. What was the maqsad? What was the objective? The objective is to save his life from the pirate. Before that happened, etc. Al-umuru bimaqasidiha. There are so many applications of that. Not only in the matter of the law, of fiqh, of transactions and of muamalat and so on, but at the regular, mundane, everyday life, at work, at home, in the street, in the masjid, in meetings and so on and so forth. Very instrumental for those who seek Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why there is another corollary principle of this one that is mentioned by the expert ulama. العبرة في العقود للمقاصد والمعاني لا للألفاظ والمباني. It rhymes. العبرة في العقود للمقاصد والمعاني لا للألفاظ والمباني. Keep that in mind if you are interested in a more in a richer life, intellectually and spiritually and morally, logically. These are wonderful gifts to one's life. to behold and to internalize it and to practice, to learn to practice. It resolves so many conflicts. So it says, العبرة في العقود. What is العبرة? The lessons withdraw, or what counts is, in matters of عقود, plural of عقد, and what is عقد? A contract, a transaction, a contract. العبرة في العقود. What counts in العقود is المقاصد والمعاني. مقاصد plural of مقصد and معاني plural of معنى. What counts is the aims of those, in other words, of those contracts. The aims and the meanings carried, in other words, in that contract, in the word of those contracts. What is, in other words, the objective and the aim by these words in this contract? Not only the words themselves. لا للألفاظ والمباني. What counts is not the wordings and the structures of the words. See that? Very important. Very, very important. Now, as I said, I'm not emphasizing here the juristic application of these principles, but every mundane, our everyday life, the mundane issues of our lives. In other words, in life we should be looking more at the depth of things, because al-ma'na wal-maqsad are deeper. They are subtle. They are tacit. They're not apparent. So we should learn in our lives to look at things deeper. Again, when somebody behaves in some ways, and when we are experiencing certain things, we should not simply immediately look at what is externally done, but what lies within that. What lies within that. This is, as I said, a corollary of the previous one. It leads, the first one leads to this one. So, for example, the way I would look at it in this way, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes us fast, when He requires from us to fast the month of Ramadan. And I look at this, now this is not a juristic fiqh level, this is at a spiritual level. I look at that, and many human beings would look at that as what? As what? Uncomfortable. Inconsistent with my pursuit of happiness and joy and fun and all of that. Well, I look at it that way. That's the zahir of it. But in a deeper look, fasting and restraining oneself from indulging into those things with practice and with experience has shown to be very instrumental to the happiness and the freedom and the health of my spiritual dimension of my heart. If I look at that versus I don't eat, from dawn to sunset, and then I eat after that moderately, there is a hardship in it. But that hardship is outweighed by the great benefits in it. So I should not be superficial in this case. I should not be superficial in looking at the immediate reaction to a thing, or the immediate literal or understanding of a thing. But I should dig deeper to discover sometimes, pearls. Sometimes you have to dive deeper and deeper to pick the pearl. And the pearl is always hidden between two shells. So all you have to uncover it. You have to do kashf in order to discover that. So sometimes we should always look at things in a deeper sense. What is the underlying fruit behind it? And therefore, of course, when it comes to contracts of trade and etc., if there is a dispute between, two parties about about the execution of that contract, one says, well, this is what it says. This is what it means. The other said, no, this is not what it means. It means something else. And each one of them is looking at the words and their different meanings. Yes, but then, of course, in this case, a court, a judge has to use other instruments and other means to decide the right goes to which one. But those contracts, when we write them, they're not based only on the words, but what did we mean by those words? What did we intend by those words? That's what's very, very important. Again, we come back again to when we hear something, somebody says something, and then we pass a fatwa, haram or kufr or shirk. That's how we understood it. But did we ask the person, what did you mean? What did you mean? And they maybe mean something very different than what I understood, and therefore judged as very wrong. Very wrong. When, when you say, توسلت بفلان إلى الله, I used this person as a wasila to Allah Azza wa Jal. Some have heard the word wasila, thought, wasila is, he used the word wasila. There can be no wasila. Can be no wasila to Allah. This is shirk. And the word wasila, that's not what it means anyway. But then he could have asked, what do you mean by that? Well, and then if he says, I mean by that, I'm asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's the one who owns everything, who dispenses of everything, who gives everything. And I'm asking him by this person, and this person is a very special person to Allah. Let's say Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Excuse me. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is beloved to Allah Azza wa Jal. And I love Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam for that. So I'm asking Allah, by this relationship that I have for you with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, help me. That's what I mean. For example, if he says that, what's wrong with that? No scholar worthy the name, even student of ilm, true student of faith, would not say there is anything wrong with that. Because it is Allah whom you are asking. And then I would say, what do you believe inside of you when you say that? When inside of you, does Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or does someone else, wali min awliya'illah, does he have any authority, any power independent from Allah Azza wa Jal, or instead of Allah Azza wa Jal, or with Allah Azza wa Jal, independent from Allah Azza wa Jal? If you say, well, yes, then that's shirk and kufr. If he says, astaghfirullah, ma'adallah, nobody, nothing, no one owns anything, does anything, can do anything, whether benefit or harm, whether he's living or dead, without the permission and the will and the authority of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What's wrong with that then? Instead of running into very dangerous conclusions with that. So that's another example. We should not be very structure-minded, external structure-minded. We should always give the benefit of the doubt by also looking at what is meant by that statement or by that behavior. And we should always look at deeper things, the meanings, the deeper meanings of things. For example, a spiritual, application of that. Why do we sometimes suffer? Why do we suffer? Why are we subjected sometimes to pain from friends, from family members, let alone from strangers? Why is that? Why some human beings do these things to one another? And the one who is asking this question is also doing that to the others. Others are looking at me. I'm making this statement. Why do others hurt me? Rest assured, others look at you also. Why do you hurt them? In some way or the other. Why does it happen? And sometimes one is in pain. One is suffering from that. And one says, why does God allow that? And then one would be, astaghfirullah, unwisely and foolishly be angry at Allah Azza wa Jal. And may make a decision to realities. That's a very superficial look at things. Of course, we're feeble, we're weak human beings. But then look at what one of our expert scholars, saintly awliya min awliya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said. For example, إنما أجرى الأذى على أيديهم كي لا تكون ساكنا إليهم. إنما أجرى الأذى على أيديهم كي لا تكون ساكنا إليهم. أراد أن يزعجك عن كل شيء حتى لا يشغلك عنه شيء. أراد أن يزعجك عن كل شيء حتى لا يشغلك عنه شيء. He says, rahimahullah ta'ala, verily, indeed, He, that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, أجر الأذى على أيديهم, He made harm, that is to you, come, run through their hands, that is you guys and me. One another, human beings towards creatures towards one another. إنما أجرى الأذى على أيديهم. He ran harm through their hands. See, look at this beautiful expression. أجرى الأذى على أيديهم. In other words, He made pain reach you through them. He made discomfort, pain, whatever we complain from and we don't like and we get angry and there are disputes. And He made that reach you, this pain that we don't like. He made you feel it by exposing you to the harm by them, through them. كي لا تكون ساكنا إليهم. This is the hidden thing. This is الأمور بمقاصدها. This is العبرة للمقاصد والمعاني. Why? Because in order that you do not acquiesce to them, in order that you do not acquiesce to them, meaning that because we experience pain and discomfort from others, from the created world, and we are part of that created world. And when that continues to happen, what's going to happen inside of you about that created world? Will you ever live in complete tranquility about that? No, it's not hatred. In other words, first of all, you do not commit your heart to them anymore. You've learned through these experiences, if you learn well, naturally you're going to Right? لا تكونوا ساكنا إليهم. Because whoever they are, at different levels, subhanallah. In the heart, at least in the heart, the heart is no more, completely obsessed and absorbed and committed in attachment to them. Subhanallah. This is, in other words, the underlying meaning and objective behind we becoming subject to pain from one another. And by the way, will this ever stop as long as humanity exists? No. You're just wasting your time. Will it ever stop? It didn't stop from Adam's time until now. The intent is كَيْ لَا تَكُونَ سَاكِنًا إِلَيْهِمْ. And he continues to explain in this beautiful, beautiful objective behind this external reality. أراد أن يزعجك عن كل شيء حتى لا يشغلك عنه شيء. By this, he, that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, intended to make you feel uncomfortable about everything else created, in order that nothing else created distracts you from him. Did you feel it? Did you know that? Yes. When these things are happening to us, and the qalb naturally disinclines, naturally, there is an apprehension at least, even if it's mother and father, not only spouse and children, and not only friends and so on. SubhanAllah, but the relationship remains, of course, of general, mawadda and love and rahmah. But deep in the deeper dimension, your qalb, cannot commit fully. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants your heart, for your own sake, for my own sake, to be committed to Him Azza wa Jal. And if my heart is committed to Him, then I have Him, infinity. Versus if my heart is fully committed to a creation, no matter what that creation is, the creation is finite. And He wants to help me and you, detach from the finite to receive the infinite. أراد أن يشغلك أن يزعجك عن كل شيء حتى لا يشغلك عنه شيء. By that He intends that He makes you feel uncomfortable with everything, so that this is uncomfortable, this has some level of discomfort, this has some level of discomfort, so I don't commit my heart fully to any of those. So that I commit my heart fully to Him only. Right? If you want somebody to turn his back away from you, what do you do to them? What would you do to them? Because you don't do that. What would you do to them? Hurt them. Hurt them once, hurt them twice. Khalas. Okay. If they are nice and they don't kill you, you go away. They go away. Because of this constant harassment that I'm, expressing towards them, they're going to leave. Allah Azza wa Jal, in His divine, infinite wisdom, He made human existence, a human life in this way. No matter who you are to me, or no matter what I am to you, there's always something you don't like. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. Or hundreds, of course. And subhanAllah, the underlying maqsad and ma'na is so that you look everywhere in the created world and it's all like that. And then when you come to Allah in that condition, you come to Him full force and full heart. Because He's the only As we said before, the only constant, subhanahu wa ta'ala, the only constant, the only unchanging, the only infinite beauty, the only arhamur rahimeen, subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's, in other words, his subtle underlying objective to help us come to him. إنما جعلها محلا للأغيار ومعدنا للأكدار تزهيدا لك فيها. He says also رحمه الله تعالى إنما جعلها محلا للأغيار. He subhanahu wa ta'ala made this world mahal, space, a place for aghyar, for things that change and keep changing. وَمَعْدِنًا لِلْأَكْدَارِ. And he made this world as a sort of a mine, a mine that is a source of a mineral. He made it a mine of akdar, that is of murkiness, lack of safa. Things are never always clean and pure, and even when you eat delicious food, you have to urinate, you have to go to the bathroom. It comes with a price. It comes with also aging and dying. It comes with murkiness. Love of children, alhamdulillah, I love my children, but they come with moments of woo. All of you know that. If you don't know that, wait until you have children. That's part of it. Spouse, you want to get married, alhamdulillah, it's good, but then, it comes with a price. All the time. From Adam alayhi salam until the end of the world. معدنا للأكدار. It's normal, it's okay, it's normal. That's the way it is. تزهيدا لك فيها. This is our Islamic Tawheedi view. تزهيدا لك فيها. In other words, to help you be zahid in this life. To help you not be fully absorbed by this life. So that you desire him Azza wa Jal. You desire akhirah. So he put even in the sweetest of pleasures, he put in that murkiness and bitterness. So that you develop zuhd in this dunya. الزهد عن شهوات الدنيا ورغائبها إلى الزهد في ما عند الله سبحانه وتعالى والرغبة فيما عند الله سبحانه وتعالى. So this is again an application of what rule we said of fiqh axiom. الأمور بمقاصدها. العبرة في العقود للمقاصد والمعاني لا للألفاظ والمباني. Again, I like to take that and to use that in our everyday life. These are usually used in courts of law and in fatawi. But subhanAllah, when you develop a feel for the madhouq, they're applicable in every part of your life. Al-yaqeen la yazulu bil-shak. Another beautiful principle, axiom of fiqh, but apply it in your life. Al-yaqeen la yazulu bil-shak. Certitude cannot be removed by doubt. Certitude cannot be removed by doubt. Al-yaqeen la yazulu bil-shak. It has its application in fatawa and courts of law, etc. But apply it in your everyday life. Al-yaqeen la yazulu bil-shak. I have a relationship with my dear brother or my dear sister or my spouse or my children. It's wonderful, beautiful, and I've experienced it throughout the ages, throughout the years, and I developed this natural, alhamdulillah, realization of the beauty of this person morally. Then I hear, and that happens, right? Then you hear, I heard that he said this, he acted this way. She did this, she acted that way. This, relative to what you know in your life, this is doubt versus yaqeen. So don't remove what you know about your brother or sister or spouse or child what you know of them with an experience, through an experience of years of character, on account of, let's say, a conjecture, a hearsay, a word, without explicit bayina, without explicit evidence, proof. اليقين لا يزول بالشك. اليقين لا يزول بالشك. You know? And it has many, many applications, my dear sisters and brothers, inshallah ta'ala. اليقين لا يزول بالشك, of course. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's magnificence and munificence and benevolence is yaqeen. Is yaqeen, subhanahu wa ta'ala. I must not, on account of some personal experiences, localized personal experiences of hardship, for example, deny or forget the infinite magnanimity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Oh, Allah is harsh, Allah is rude. Astaghfirullah. اليقين لا يزول بالشك, for example. وهكذا. And it can be applicable to so many ways. I'm going to share with you one more and we'll stop without commentary, just for you to. Many of you, I think, if you think about it, you take them and you will know how to apply them, inshallah ta'ala, in your regular lives. For example, يغتفر في البقاء ما لا يغتفر في الابتداء. يغتفر في البقاء ما لا يغتفر في الابتداء. This is a fiqh axiom, a juristic axiom. يغتفر في البقاء. In other words, it said we would forgive and allow to pass things after they have occurred, which we wouldn't do before they would have occurred. In other words, I would not allow something to start in the Shari'i sense, that is, first of all, in the Sharia, in the fiqh concept. It is unlawful to start it. But if it has happened, then we may allow it. We may forgive and allow it. And that has a wide range of applications. For example, in law, if somebody married a woman who was in her iddah, first of all, if he knew she was in her iddah, and she says, I was in iddah, you cannot start that marriage in iddah. It's unlawful, it's haram to enter into a marriage with a woman who is in her iddah from another marriage. She was divorced and she's in her iddah, and before the iddah is finished, you want to marry her. You cannot do that. But assume, and these cases existed, some people are. Either they don't know or they're fools. But assume you thought that her iddah, she told you that her iddah is finished. And then you got married. Then you realize factually, and she tells you, no, I was in my iddah still. And the marriage is consummated and so on. In this case, it is an example of, they say, يغتفر في البقاء ما لا يغتفر في الابتداء, because it has been consummated and there are very serious consequences about that. Children, potential children, and so on and so forth. Then you allow the marriage to go. You allow it to go with the fact that the person has committed a dhanb. You would not allow it to start, but you allow it to continue after it has been consummated, it has been executed. Now, this is an example of law, but think about this examples at home, in the community, in your life. How you can apply this principle in your social relationships, in your regular life, how you should be cognizant of this fact. let it go because it has happened already. Instead of being, no, it should not have happened from the beginning. And make of it as though it is something extremely major. If it is things like these, let go. But bring attention to the fact that it should not have been started. And yet, don't break something because it should not have started after it has started. For instance, there are examples like that in life on the basis of this axiom: يغتفر في البقاء ما لا يغتفر في الابتداء، أو يغتفر في الاستمرار ما لا يغتفر في الابتداء. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us all. May Allah guard our hearts. May Allah illuminate our minds and our hearts to what is khair for us with Him Azza wa Jal in this dunya and in akhirah. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على سيدنا مولانا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. I'm sorry for the extra 5 minutes. That might happen every Tuesday because of the class, inshallah ta'ala. And if you are not ready to stay an extra 5 or 10 minutes once a week, then الأمور بمقاصدها. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.